Everybody, welcome back. SpeakuP Monday again here at Tropical Nomad. Though we're not in the garden this time, we're inside because we were worried about the weather. But the weather's still very good, so if you're watching this, you still have time to come down and join us in the studio audience. So I will welcome our beautiful guest very shortly. And for those of you who maybe haven't seen this before and wonder what the hell is going on, so SpeakuP Monday is every Monday here from Tropical Nomad. We film it live, 7 p.m. And people arrive around 6:55, but I recommend you come at 6:30. I'm still going to keep on saying that, even though they come always later. So the purpose of the show is an inspirational Q&A platform in which we have incredible guests, and through a process of questioning, we get to unravel some really cool stuff that always lands and has a really strong impact and insight for those of you who are either watching here live or online via Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever you're doing. So, that said, if you do ever want to be on the show and be in the place of our beautiful guest, feel free to reach out to me, or if you think that someone else would, feel free to reach out for them to me, and I'll be in touch, and I'm sure they're going to come and say hi, because everyone always seems to say hi. So I haven't had one no. I wonder why that is. Twisting their arm very gently. So, guys, just want to welcome you to the show, Tara.
Thank you very, very much. I'm very honored to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying yes. And look, out of interest, so how do we find one another? How do we find one another tonight?
Your first SpeakuP Monday, I saw it.
Okay.
That's it. And so I saw it, and I just really...
There you go.
Hello there. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, hello. Okay.
The microphone
There
training.
I am. It's the microphone and me. Okay, so yes, I saw you on your first SpeakuP Monday, and I just really loved you.
Thank you.
And I said, oh, I love that. I just had this feeling. It's like you're just sitting down and we're all speaking around the planetary campfire. And my intuition said, contact him. And I said, okay. And that was that.
Wow. Thank you for tuning in to that. Thank you as well. So with this, for anyone watching, we don't plan. Hello, my darling. We don't plan any questions here. The questions come in and the answers come out. That's kind of how it works. So, but one that dropped in, if there's a message for you to give to people that may be watching tonight, either live or watching from online, what message comes through for you to say?
Oh, there's so many. I guess for me, what my life journey has been to love the other as the self, knowing that there is no other but the self. And that's just like what my life journey has been. So that sums it up. I guess we're done. Thank you all very much for coming. It's been great. I'm so happy you're here. God, it feels really good. Yeah. So
I already know tonight's going to be a lot of laughs. I love that. So good. So look, so for those of you or people watching here and wonder, who is Tara Khandro? And I know that we had this thing when we were talking about it, and you're saying, well, I don't like to be put in any kind of box, because we've got a guy over here, Peter, who weeks ago said, Rob, it'd be really good if you could introduce the guest, because maybe people don't know what they are, who they are, what they stand for, right? And then when it came to you, I was thinking, like, how on earth do I introduce you, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, because, there's so many facets that you represent, which I love, and I don't really want to limit you to anything. So, if there were 3 words that you had to choose to describe yourself, what would those 3 words be?
Well, I think, what came through for the talk tonight, true, brave, and free. Because my life has been, I signed up to have a life of where I would be taken to the edge of death and then return again in this body. So it's been a series of death and rebirths. And so because of that, it's very, very creative. Because each time the death happens, everything's completely obliterated, and then you can recreate again until you just you're just totally nobody. You don't have any identity with who you were before, and then the true parts just keep coming up each time you rebirth, and then you become nobody. I'm looking at you because I said, oh, what are you doing here? And he goes, because of you. I go, well, what do you mean because of me? And he says, what was it? The non-self? What do you say? What? What? No self. Yeah, he was interested in the no self. And I go, right, it's becoming nobody. And becoming nobody is releasing the identity that we're a woman, a man, a job, a parent, all those identities that are given to us before we could say, no, that's not me. And then it became me. And it's like, no, but that's not me. And then I have to go, well, that's not me. And so I have to say goodbye to me. I have to love not me. And then I say goodbye to me. So it's this whole process. It's I think it's just such a cosmic comedy, really, that we all are born and we forget who we are. But we're trained to forget. That's a whole nother thing. But anyway.
And then, so when you say that we're trained to forget, what do you mean by that?
Well, the Zen have a koan, and so a koan is a little poem, and it's created in a way so that it asks the left brain to step aside, and you contemplate it in wholeness. And so in the contemplation, the answer will come. So in the moment that you're given the koan, you think, that's ridiculous. That means nothing. I don't know what that means, right? That's your left brain talking. And then you go deeper, and then the answer arises from inside of you. And one of those is, I don't know the exact words of it, but it is something like, nothing evil, nothing good, your original face now. And some of it's translated as, show me the face before you were born. And so that true face before we were born is in here, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to come into this body and I'm going to be a human being, and okay. And then we're born, and it's still there. It's always there. But then it gets covered up by all this stuff. Oh, you're so cute. Oh, you're a girl. We're pink. Oh, it's all this stuff. And so then we get to so we're all wounded. Everybody's got the same journey. We're all wounded from the beginning, and then we go battle with our shadows, and then we go train our mind, and then we surrender. Okay, we're not in control. And then we become, oh, I can naturally find my pace and place and walk in the world, and this is who I am. And then we're really awakened. But it's not a linear thing. It happens always. Cycles. Everything is a spiral, So, so becoming nobody is releasing the identity of the identities that have been given to us, and then coming into our own true face, whatever that feels like. It's presence. It's I am. It's it has lots of names. So,
and then so for people here watching, right? So I get you that when you say that it's a naturally kind of unfolding process for you, and you go through those different realms of the ego. And then you get to the end, it's like, you know what, I'm just going to surrender. And once I surrender, then I find something else. And it's like, well, actually, that's the thing that I didn't know that I was looking for that found me.
Right.
Okay. So then if people here say, you know what, I don't want to go through the whole process. I just want a shortcut. It's like I want to just like snakes and ladders. I don't want to go through all of the different, I just want to get on a ladder and go straight up. What would that ladder be? The shortcut.
There is no shortcut. So, however, each individual will take that journey in the way that they are to take that journey, and it is their own discovery. And there are many, many ways that my experiences are in the early day, because of the death and rebirth, I've experienced lots of violence. And so that's my personal experience. And then as an intuitive integrative healer, then I worked with people who also like satanic ritual abuse, pedophile, rape, incest, genocide, you name it, you know. And so when we come from that place, you think, oh gosh, well, this person experienced all of this, and this person just, oh, well, you know, just experienced this one thing. It doesn't matter. You know, we're all experiencing exactly what we need so that we can move into our earth experiences and bring the light in, because light and the true face, which is this eternal radiance, does not happen unless we embrace all the dark stuff that we feel, that we label dark or whatever. It feels dark or whatever. That's the only way it's going to happen, because that's the way the earth is kind of like, that's the way it is here. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is.
And then, so getting to your own journey, or one of them, one of the many. So when you mentioned, you know, like a death experience and you came back, so could you explain for us what one of those death experiences looked like or felt like, or what you encountered?
Sure. Let's see, which would be the most... Okay, well, since we're talking about the true face, I'll talk about this one. So there were. Oh, well, I'll just like briefly say the first two, and then I'll land on the last one, and then we'll journey into that one. Okay. So the first one is I was abducted and raped at gunpoint, and the guy had the gun to my head, and I was 22, and I said, okay, all right, I'm 22, and if you want me to go this way, fine, I'll do it. However, I'd really think I have more to offer. And then at that time, my guardian angel came into the car. I mean, the whole car just like filled up with golden light. And so the guy just dropped the gun, and then the rape still happened because angels, you know, that's a whole nother thing, but they can't interfere with destiny, free will, all that kind of stuff. So, so that was great. So here we have, within this incredibly violent experience, the sublime coming in. All right? So they're never apart, even though we're trained to be separate from our divinity. It's like, okay. And so the second time, oh gosh, just make love to the microphone, please. Okay, thank you. The second time, 6 months later, I was run over by an Alfa Romeo on the corner of Haight and Masonic in San Francisco. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool. It's an Alfa Romeo, at least, you know. And I did move into the tunnel, and I heard, no, it's not time yet. And so then I came back. And then 10 years to the exact date of the abduction and rape at gunpoint, I had been traveling around the world as a theater artist, and I was completely burned out. I was like wet tissue paper. Now, the theater art that I did was physical theater, so we would train 6 to 8 hours a day in peak performance. This is like Olympic performance stuff that we would do. So just to let you know, and I was 33, so I was in like this real top shape, right? But I felt like wet tissue paper because we'd been traveling around and I was burnt out. So the overhead light comes on in my bedroom, and I see this guy standing at the end of my bed. And I start to get up. I'm on the floor on my futon, and he points and he says, lay down. I go, oh. And immediately, because this is 10 years to the exact date, right, the abduction and rape, I go, oh, right, I think he's going to rape me. And so I stood there, and because I have been trained for so many years in the power, our power center is our belly and is our hips. It's martial arts. Because I had been trained in that, I knew that I could stand there and say no to him. Okay, so I did. And I was just like beaten up beyond recognition, and I wasn't raped. So then, and I was an actor at the time, so my face was very, very important to me. So the first thing I did was I go wake up my landlord upstairs, and then I went to the mirror, and in the bathroom, and I looked in the mirror, and there was no face. It was just all black, blue, bloody. But there were 2 little black dots in my face. So I looked into the black dots, and I just kept looking. And as I kept looking, I went into myself. So I just kept diving down into the dark. And when I dove, I would feel rage and shame. And I would feel all those things. And I said, okay, I feel you and I'll get to you later. Thank you very much. And I just kept diving down until I saw it. It was this light. It was kind of like, looked like that. It was this little light. And I go, oh, that's my true face. And so the moment I had that recognition, all of this bliss just filled my body. And I was just, okay, all right, fine, this is it. This is my true face. And then the policeman came and opened the door, and I go, oh, great, I'm so glad you're here. And they were just like going, what the? They, my face, you couldn't even see me. And they go, oh, no. So anyway, did that answer your question? I'm kind of lost now. Sorry.
Here's
the true face. Yeah. So that's where I got that was, 33 years ago. Actually, 33 years ago tomorrow. And so that's what propelled me, because after that, then I said, okay, I made a vow. Actually, I made a vow before the police came, when I saw my true face, to delete the patterns of violence within me from past lives in this life for future lifetimes. So that's what's been my motivating thing every time I'm moving, And then I've had lots of other experiences, and just a year ago. But that was like the initiation. That was the initiation.
And thank you, honey. So how do you heal then those past lives for the sake of future generations?
Well, simply, it's self-responsibility. You want to take care of everything within you. It's like there's like 4 questions that came to me at one point that were really a good foundation for my process. And it's, who am I? And I answered, all that I am not. So what does that mean? It means that all of this stuff, from, all the trauma, all my training, everything that feels I'm in pain, everything I'm rejecting, that's me. So I am all of that too. And I'm also this immortal self. So I am all of this. So instead of like pushing it down into the dungeon of my heart, go, okay, that's who I am. I'm that too. So it's an acceptance of that. And the second question was, who am I becoming? And my answer was, well, I'm becoming nobody. I'm becoming I am. I'm becoming my immortal self, my divine sovereignty, whatever you want to call it. That's who I'm becoming. And the other question was, what do you want to become? And I want to become all that is. And what that means is I'm just totally in the moment, present, interconnected with everything. That's what being present means. And then how do I want to live? As love. And so those just kind of, but it was taking every moment and seeing, like, in every interaction, how am I contributing to this feeling of unease and dis-ease and violence in an interaction, like with humans or something, or myself, because one of the things that my perpetrators taught me was that, like, oh, I rape myself, oh, I beat myself up, oh, and the guy who broke into my apartment, I was to be his initiation into his gang. And I thwarted it, and who knows what he told the guys. But I realized, wait, I'm like him. All he wants is to be loved. And he's doing exactly what he thinks he needs to do to be loved. Well, shit, I do shit like that too, don't I? It may not be like going out and raping somebody, but it's like, yeah, right. So I'm no different. I'm no different. And so that's what I meant at the beginning. If the one message is love the other as a self, because there is nobody else but you, and we are everyone and everything. And so if there's someone that you have this like, oh, I hate so and so, well, you know that's you. You know you're hating you. That means nothing. You know, it's that kind of stuff. So
Thank you, darling. It's really important message, right? Which is, the understanding that, the shadow is you. Learn to love it and accept it. And even when you see that shadow in other people, in behavior that maybe you don't necessarily condone, right? But that's also you. So you is everywhere. Right?
yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
not really a condoning thing. It's a matter of allowing. Because the condoning thing is a mental thing, and so we're taught to judge, we're taught to compare, and we're taught to polarize. We're taught to use the two basic energies of the planet, the yin and the yang, the opposites that are hanging out here on Earth. We're taught to polarize them. But when we stand in our belly, in our gut, in our an anchor in here, where the fuel of our immortal self is, when we stand in that field, it's the field of love. So when we keep going back into that field each time and breathing into it and being present and feeling it, then we get out of the polarization and the condoning. It's like, okay, the kind of ease that we can have is like, well, that looks really stupid and ridiculous, or whatever your left brain might be saying. Bottom line, it's like, hey, you just got to allow it. Because if you don't, then the pressure is always there to do something, to compare, to judge, or whatever it is. So it's kind of allowing all to be just as it is, no matter what it is the big, that's a whole like practice.
And love, right? So we're talking a lot about love here, which is so important, right? So for people here, if they're saying to you, look, I'm in a situation right now and I'm feeling all this emotion, which I might choose to call resentment, which I might choose to label hate, which I might choose to label fear, and love is where we want to live. How do I get to love from that place?
It really depends upon the individual, but the first step is to love the resentment and to love the fear and to really sit with it, because many of us have not been held. We have not been held like in an unconditional hug, and all of our parents were doing the best they could because they never got held in unconditional hugs. So we learned how to love from them, right? My parents were abusive. I've worked with kids whose parents were really, really, doesn't matter. They still love them because this is, like the gang member. Right? So that's our definition of love. So we have to return to what doesn't feel like that. And we have to discover what it feels like not to feel like that, right? The only way we can do it is to come in and go, oh, I love you, resentment. Okay, let's feel you. Let's really feel you. Let's punch a pillow. Let's do something. Let's, whatever. But I know in the beginning, like when I was dealing, because when I dove down and I felt all the rage and the shame and the blame and all that, I said, okay, I'm going to feel you later, and I sure did. And it's just very important to feel, basically, to feel. Because there's really nothing to heal. We only need to be and to feel what we're feeling and to relax into it. And it could be going like this. Like anger is just energy that needs, it's a lot of energy. Lately since Corona happened, I'll be like, because I have all this warrior energy. And so it's not anger really so much as, I don't even know what to call it. Maybe you can tell me what to call it. But, like I'll go in as, okay, I'm getting kind of, I'll ride my bike into Ubud. I go, oh gosh, I just like to take all the masks off of people right now, So it's not anger. It's just like, oh, I guess I'm bored or something. I don't know. But anyway, you've got to, what Joshua, Jesus, the guy who's called Jesus the Christ, he was a spiritual activist, right? The guy was love. He was love. That's what he did. He showed up. His mission was to show people how to love while all the Romans were chopping off heads and doing stuff, right? So we have it really good now. It's very, very easy. And so he showed me, like, when the money changers were in the temples. And the temples, I don't know, were supposed to just be for templing and, whatever they do religiously in temples. But the money changers were in there. And he said, that's not cool. So he felt some anger, I'm sure. I'm kind of projecting on him, but I imagine he was a man, and so he was. So he felt this, and so what he did, because he was love, he just rooted that anger in love. He just rooted it first. He felt it, he rooted it, and then one man with a whip was able to go around the temple just whipping. He didn't go hit anybody. He just did the whip and everybody left. Okay, that's all you really need. It's a martial arts thing, really. It's all energy, but that's the thing, because we're not trained to feel, and that it's okay to feel, but because the feelings are the messengers from the soul. So we need to relearn that. We need to unlearn the things that we learned, and reveal the things that have been hidden, and then go play with them. But that's the important thing, is just to play with them very lightly, firmly, and lovingly.
Thank you. Yeah. And recently I've been going through this thing, and what do I refer to as a thing? When emotion comes up for me, instead of trying to label it, oh, that's because of this or that, I just say, you know what? It's just energy.
Yes.
And just feel it. And eventually, usually quite a short period of time, it tends to kind of leave.
Yeah.
But I really am making an effort to let it go and not to attach any thing to it. Oh, that's because of.
Yes.
This is because of.
And where is that attachment coming from? I'm asking you the question.
No,
it's not rhetorical.
Yeah, I'm thinking. It's good. It's good live coaching.
It's a dialogue.
Yeah, that's right. Attachment. Where's the attachment coming from?
But go back to your words and what you just said. It's coming from here.
Yeah.
And there's little voices. We all have like a million voices in our head that are not ours. They were put into us before we didn't have the words to say, no, I don't want you. We're just little kids. We're looking up at our parents. Oh my God, they're really tall and they feed me. I can't really say no to them, until you get to the point to where, every child, this little kitten showed up in my garden. It was small. It like 3 days ago, small. It's like literally like. So I'm going, okay, that's okay. And I fed a chicken. Good. It's off the milk. Okay, so I'm going, okay, well, I got to do something. It's small. Okay, so I started to kind of prepare myself. Okay, do you want to live with it? Okay. So it was hanging on my chair when I left to go work out for an hour, and I came back and it was gone. I go, what? It's a teeny little kitten that's gone. So I find out, my neighbor says, oh yeah, I saw the kitten. The kitten's clear up there. The kitten was like clear, far away, and I'm going, oh, what? That's an immortal cat. That's totally, that's amazing, right? I can't remember now why I'm talking about this. What did you ask? Oh,
it was about attachment and their head.
Oh, darn. I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, I can't remember.
It will come back.
Oh. Anyway. Energy. Oh, energy. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. So this little kitten's energy is just so strong, and he's just moving with it. It's just phenomenal what it is. And so that's because I grew up playing competitive tennis. I started at age 8. And so I played the zen of tennis. And what that means is that there's no enemy. There's only energy. So I just worked always with the energy. Okay? And so when that happens, if you put the mind onto it and start evaluating it, start labeling it, giving it labels, start saying, where did that come? There's certain questions that are the correct questions to ask for, personal unfoldment into your integrity and truth and everything. But the majority of questions are going to come from voices that are not yours, is the thing. So it's a matter of clearing that to be able to feel the voice that's coming up from here and going blah, 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 blah.
Okay, so let me give you an example. So competitive tennis, I love tennis. Sure, there's people here who love tennis too. So when you're saying, working with the energy, so for example, are we perhaps talking about times where it's a key point you're playing and it might be match point down or match point up, or a really a point where you have the sense that the energy of the game is about to shift, like a momentum shift. So then out of you comes these ideas and thoughts about it. They might be uplifting, like you can do it, you got this, like you've got it, or it could be like, hey, this is a really important point. Take a deep breath, like, can I do this? Like, so when you're saying work with the energy in a situation like that, how would that play out?
Just as you said. However, I wouldn't listen to those words. I would hear the words and I would just remain with the energy. And then a very unique creative solution would come up. Okay? So, yeah. And so that's been my foundation really for, everything. Yeah, because then the training that I did as a physical theater actor just really built on all of that, all of it. It was very holistic. It was in the 80s, and we would work with people. I remember, people in the 80s in my country, in the United States, who were coming up with whatever they were coming up with. Yeah, I don't know, all the new consciousness, blah blah blah. And so we would work with them only in the arts, in the creative way. I mean, we trained like little kids, and then we trained NASA astronauts. We trained everybody because it was just being there in the moment. Like this morning I was doing box fit. Box people. Yeah. And my person that I was working with was going like this, and so she was going really really fast. She wasn't using her core, and she was going too fast too, because I was the person she was hitting against, right? And so my hand kept going like this, and I'm going, what's going on? What's she doing? And she was going too fast. So I asked her to slow down, and then the moment she slowed down, then she started to get here, and then she started to work, because that's where the energy comes from. It comes from the core. That's the only. I mean, I'm like 30 years older than the people that I work out with, and like I had a year ago, I was like, unconscious, had seizures, and I was in the hospital for 10 days with my brain thing. And so once I got to a place where I could start moving again, I went to work out. And Bamboo goes, oh yeah, Tara is strong. I go, I am. I just came here after 5 minutes. Okay, fine. And it was like, yeah, I am. And it's not because of physicality. It's because I know how to breathe and to work the energy from here. And that's not a secret. It's just something we all need to know.
Got it. And look, so let's go there. So a year ago, right? So you shared a beautiful message with me of someone who knows you really well, and was talking about that time where we're going to in a second. But a year ago, this thing happened.
Oh.
And the way that she spoke about it was so beautiful, because she was able to really communicate her feelings for you and what you did, referred to it as immortal, and tapping into the energy and turning it around. And so could you, in your own words, just let us know what happened a year ago and how you were able to come through it?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, so up until a year ago, because I have always known that I signed up to have all these death and rebirth experiences, so I, for whatever reason, well, I know what the reason, but anyway. And so up until then, I thought, oh, good, I'm done. I've had them all. I mean, my God, what else could happen to me? And then I wake up in a hospital room. Oh, how did I get here? Oh. And then people told me how I got there, because I have no memory. And so I had a ear infection in my ear, and this is something that we all need to know. Ear infection in my ear for 2 months. It wouldn't go away. And ear infections, if they're bacterial, they'll go up to the brain. That's real. And so so that's what happened. And so I haven't. This is what people tell me because I have no memory. So, and I was at Kasi Ibu at Pantai Sabah, which is an incredible hospital, and I had a brilliant Javanese neurologist, female, who was just brilliant. And when I came in, I presented as bacteria, but she said there's something else going on, because she didn't know exactly how to approach it, because she didn't know what that other thing was. And then she discovered that the bacteria picked up the virus. Viruses are inside of all of our bodies, just to let you know, and picked up a virus inside. Because he was kind of lonely. He said, I'd like to have some fun. Let's have a party in her brain, shall we? And
invite some friends. Yeah. Hey, virus, come over here. Virus 2, you look good. Come here. We need virus number 3. Come over here. Hey, let's get down. Zip it up.
That's exactly what happened. You were there. You were there. Oh my God. Oh my God. You were there. I know. I knew I'd seen you before. I just knew I'd seen you before. Oh God. Yeah. So then she knew how to treat it, and so but my landlord found me on my bed, and I was unconscious with seizures, and there was poop all in my bed, and so that's about it, I guess. And then so I was in the hospital for 10 days, and then it was just a process of. But that was, but the good news is like, okay, I'm still alive. I could live to be 150, and I will still be on the journey of death and rebirth. But the cool thing of it is, after this last one, it was like I woke up one morning and I go, oh my God, one of these days I'm going to have an experience and I won't come back to my body. And that has never occurred to me before, because it happened at such a young age. And I just kind of had this unconscious, like, well, I'm always protected. I'll come back. I've never feared death because it doesn't exist. But I mean, so that's given me a different viewpoint. It's like, oh gosh, one of these days I won't come back.
What's going to happen then?
So it's informed how I live my life, obviously. So
I love you, Tara. By the way, guys, I'll give you a little bit of a break, grab some water. So we're here at Tropical Nomad every Monday, called SpeakuP Monday, and lots of different guests, some beautiful insights, and whatever comes up, comes up. Nothing's ever scripted. It just happened. Well, clearly.
You little bacteria.
Virus.
You're virus. You're the virus. Where's my mask? Shit.
Oh, goodness, love it. So 2 questions come up, and so one of them is...
I thought we were taking a break.
I know. You just had your break. Got to work here, honey.
Okay.
Work it out.
All right.
And so 2 questions, right? So one question is, what are you here to do? Because you have this beautiful way of finishing something, and then you pop something in there, and you let it go. So
I do?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I hear it. It's okay. So one of those things was, what I'm here to do. And he said, but, enough about that. So I'm asking you, number 1, what are you here to do? Number 2 was about unconscious. It's about this thing of you, I'm always going to be back. I'll be fine. I'm always coming back. Da, 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 da. Where did that come from? So 2 questions, but let's go for number 1 first, which was, what are you here to do? Because you alluded to it, and then you pulled away.
Well, I just feel, I'm here to love. And that's a huge thing. So it can be whatever it is in the moment. But given my life, that's what's been kind of cool about, I'm into my 7th decade or 60. How does that work? If you're 10, that's the first day. Anyway, I'll be 66 tomorrow, actually. So I've lived in, so I've been in this vehicle for that long a time. So if you have that, along with all your experiences, you have a perspective that you don't have when you're 50 or something. You have a perspective. Yeah. And so that's been shifting. And bottom line, it's like everybody goes, oh, what's my purpose? What's this? I just feel that each of our purposes is to be love. And however that shows through individually and uniquely for each one of us. And then given the whole shamanic death rebirth thing, It's like, well, I've certainly chosen to move into the very darkness of life, right? I mean, my very, very first client as an intuitive integrative healer was a survivor of satanic ritual abuse. My very first one. So I'm sitting there going, oh, okay, all right, okay, you're going to teach me a lot. Thank you very much. I trust you. You know, so everything was okay. And so my life is always a surprise, you know. So, and it's, if I feel like, especially like right now, we're given the opportunity to really, really come into our immortal divine sovereignty, and and it's all very uncertain, but life is always uncertain. It's not really any more uncertain now than it ever has been. It's more clearly uncertain now in a lot of ways, which is really good. And so for me, like when I looked at when I dove down into my darkness to see my true face, I just felt like, well, I'm just Alice in Wonderland, and she was going into Wonderland. And the words that she kept saying as she went into Wonderland were curiouser and curiouser. Oh. So she was basically going, well, this is interesting. I wonder. She was curious. So if we're curious, that's, I think, a very strong ally, because that's something that's just kind of, I think, was natural for me. And it was also something that I just kept cultivating. Because each time I would come up upon some, like with Corona, like at the big, you know, like, because I was still in the, I was still like, oh my God, I'm 66, I'm going to die tomorrow, you know, when they said people over 60 are going to die. And,
You're done.
But I was still in the energy of like healing from that. And then this came, and so it took me a couple of weeks, and I realized, okay, I'm fine. It's okay. I can go. But what kept me going was like to be curious. It's like I get a piece of information. Oh, okay, this is interesting, and just continue to be curious about it.
You know, thank you. One of the things which really stick in my mind as a takeaway for me and maybe many others is, you know, I dove down into my darkness to find my true face.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so powerful, because most people, the shadow, right? I don't want to look at that. I don't want to see that. I definitely don't want to go there. But the way that you explained it like that, I think in one sentence just captures it so succinctly, but in a way that you can get it and understand it.
Oh, good. Yeah,
it's really
thank
cool
you for that. Well,
It's really cool.
If you all saw, okay, which one was it? Was it the first Hobbits, the Lord of the Ring? What was the first? Was that the first movie?
Yeah, in the second part, because you had the trilogy before that of the Hobbit's Tale, but Lord of the Rings was the first one in the Lord of the Rings saga.
I think it was Lord of the Rings. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the scene, and you can tell me what the movie was in. But what you're saying is exactly what Gandalf did. So Gandalf was here he was. Here's the precipice, and here's this fire and this monster coming up. So the monster comes and starts taking him by the ankle, and he starts going in as a victim. Okay, he starts going in as a victim, and then what does he do? He chooses. I'm not going to go in as a victim. And so what he does is he takes his sword and he dives. And that's exactly where we're at right now on the planet. We've got to dive in there. And if you don't have the curiosity to do that, because that's what's, you know, little kids, man. We're all little kids, even though we got the program, we're still little kids, and we go wandering around and being curious and discovering and everything. That's what it is. It's all discovery. It's just all discovery. Because we've been trained at the shadow. I think actually Jung said something like that. The difference between a crazy person and not crazy person is that the not crazy person chooses to go into the darkness or something.
So powerful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, the second question was about, you know, so you felt, so I've always felt protected as well, right? And I don't really know why, but for you, so what is it, or why is it, or where did that feeling of being protected come from?
Yeah, that's a good question. I love that. Thank you.
It's not my question.
Well, yeah. um, yeah. Well, I can address it on multiple levels. I'm trying to feel into the correct level here. Okay. So, okay. I got three things I can say, I think. So, when I was 3 years old, I was in my grandmother's garden, and I sat in the garden, and I remembered who I was. I felt my connection to everything. I was not separate from the sunflower, the sky, the ants, the dirt. I was not separate. And since my brain thing initiated deleting any patterns that I had mentally that were still connected to separation and fear and old stuff, whatever. So that was what I got. I remembered that moment in three, and I thought, wow, that was really good, because I think that was a very foundational, profound thing of protection through all of this stuff. And then when all of it happened, then I just things would come to me in terms of really clear, like, making rings of protect, like the Pope's dome, like the Pope mobile. He would go into his car, and he'd have this dome, like the Jetsons. Like, I'm kind of, you guys don't know Jetsons, but
yeah, the bulletproof glass that came over to protect him, but was transparent so you could see him.
Exactly. The transparency is the key. So there's protection. So I just kind of, in the early days when I was working with myself and violent trauma survivors, things would come because we need that, because we have not been given an opportunity to really feel safe to belong to ourselves. There's this is what the whole thing is now. It's like this whole, at the planet, it's like, the manipulation of fear of death. It's like, well, okay, there is no death, so you've got to understand there is no death. And so that's a long, there's no shortcut to it, but you can get there quickly. That's kind of the weird thing. That's the paradox of living on Earth. I mean, you can get there quickly, but there's no shortcuts. So I think that's probably what the thing is. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know. So that's about.
So that was number one, and the question was, so that feeling of being protected. Yeah, where did it come from?
Oh, well, that from the 3-year-old self, and then each time, as I said, like in the rape, the angel was there. So every time that I've experienced anything that's been shaking and shattering, the sublime has always been very present. And then also, like, I was in the hospital. I mean, the only other time I was in the hospital was to get my tonsils taken out, right? So here I am, and there was even an earthquake when I was in the hospital too. It was like, okay, thank you. And so I remember that what got me through it in the early days, because I don't even have any words to say how my brain was. I have absolutely, people would just reflect to me, like, what I was saying wasn't what I was saying. I mean, they would just reflect things, and I go, oh, because I just felt so totally, I was in my immortal self totally. I mean, there was no other identity at all. And just that energy and that love and that God presence, whatever, was just there. And everything else was just kind of out here. And so what got me through that in the early days, in the 10 days, it was like I would just hug myself and I say, I am loved so much that I have been given this experience. And then also the protection thing. Oh, this is the other thing I think is really, really good for all of us to know, is that, okay, here I am unconscious with seizures on my bed. I'm alone, but I'm not alone, right? My landlord finds me. So, okay, what does she do? She looks at my phone and my Facebook or whatever. So she finds my friend Sebastian in Thailand, and Sebastian calls my friend Richard, who becomes my legal guardian, right? So and so the ambulance came. I mean, in Bali, I mean, that's really cool. An ambulance came, right? So an ambulance came, took me to the correct hospital, took me to the Javanese female neurologist. It wasn't in my control. So I feel like that is one of the most important things that we can all remember. That it's we're always so. It's like, I grew up in the United States, so it's like, okay, let's go forward, let's be independent, and which is really great. I mean, I really appreciate that. On the other hand, though, each and every one of us are interdependent. Okay, but this larger mystery, we must allow the mystery to be in charge, which is where, like what you're talking about, when all the voices come in, and you go, oh gosh, it's set point, oh gosh, it's this, so this is this, like, okay, they're just voices, so when you calm that, then what do you have left? You have the presence, you have the God self, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I just have this feeling that, like in consciousness, evolutionary consciousness, as human beings, we're turning into whom-animals. Because in Sanskrit, hu means divine and man means mind. And we're animals, we're mammals, we're, dogs and cats. So the divine mind would be the mind that is non-dual, would be the immortal self and true face. It's that mind, that's what we're evolving into. And we're so totally in our dog animal body, though. So that's what makes us different than the dogs and the cats. We were trained as like, oh, we're dominant over the dogs and the cats. No, we're not. We are stewards, because we do have the awareness that we're God. The kitty and the dog, they are God. I mean, they just move. The cat just lays here and then it's moved. It doesn't go, oh, I'm hungry. It moves. So yeah, I just feel like so it's exciting.
And so when you say, that we are God, what do you mean by that?
That we're whole. We've always been whole, and that the presence, you can call it anything you want. It's interesting. I mean, it comes out what the words come out that are going to come out in a moment. So, but I guess because I don't really use God word. I mean, whatever. But it's just the eternal, infinite presence of love. Of this. There's the cosmic love, cosmic God. That's like all the big mystery, and that's including everything on the planet, and in the universe, and that's like we can't even conceive of. And then there's that spark of that from that light. Like if you think God's like the sun, then there's a ray inside of us that has the same exact qualities. It was like, I remember there's a story from Jesus's time when he was training his disciples, and it was like, yeah, you can just touch this person and they can, oh no, we can't. No, you can. I'm not doing anything different than you. You can do it, So it's like this feeling that we're separate from that energy, and we're not.
Love that. And that's one other question that just popped in. What was it? So you're saying that we don't die. So how would you explain that for people?
And so you look at nature; it's in cycles. There's you plant the seed, okay, and it grows and it grows and it grows, and then it blooms and has fruit, and then the leaves start coming off and it's dying, and then the whole thing's dead. So that cycle is us. We're not separate from nature. We have been trained to that, and so now we're coming back in to know that we're not separate from it, right? So we are nature. So there's this death and rebirth cycle that's always happening inside of us, inside of ourselves, just inside of our breath. We inhale. When we inhale, there's a natural space in between the inhale and the exhale. There's a natural space in there. So there's, so that's, we inhale, we breathe in life, and then we exhale, and then it die, just from that kind of thing. So there's that piece. And then the immortal self is eternal. It's like no matter what you feel connected to, if it's a soul or whatever, and you go through past lives or whatever, there's all kinds of ways to connect with that. But that's what I mean. It's like death is really a habit. It's like we're trying to like. I remember like I was living like over out of my country for 5 years, and then when I went back, I was like so I was like 58, so I was like, oh my God, I was getting old, right? And so I was with people in a community in Texas, and there were a lot of like retired people, and I walked in the gym, and like every one of them just knew that they were going to have a hip replacement. So it's like you're trained to think that you're going to die and something is going to come kill you. I mean, that's the training, and Joshua, Jesus, I don't know, he's coming up a lot. He's that spiritual activist, isn't he? And, but that's basically what his training was, because there's this, when he did all of his own personal training so that he could go walk his walk and show up as love, he goes, okay, I'd like to share this with some people. And the only people around were fishermen, right? And so he goes up to a fisherman and he says, and again, I'm just making the story up, but it feels correct. So, because I wasn't there, right? So, but here he is. He's got this light. It's just this sunshine. It's just sunshine in this male body. And so he goes to a fisherman and he says, hey, I can teach you how to live forever or something, to whatever he was talking about at that time, which was that. And the fisher guy goes, oh, wait a minute. I have to go bury my uncle. But, I'd like to come after I go bury my uncle. And Joshua says, let the dead bury the dead. So it's like what Joshua was saying is like those rituals will not, yes, we do need ceremony. I've worked with native, indigenous people all over the world. I understand how true ceremony works. You commune with the spirits to bring it in. I get that. And rituals like brushing your teeth, yes, that's important. But the way that it's come into religion, it's like, who was that guy who said it's the opiate of the masses? Who was that guy? Anyway, some guy said some philosopher said religion's the opiate of the masses. Marx, yeah. He said it was the opiate of the masses, And so that's what Joshua was saying back then, basically. He says, well, I can show you how to live your eternal life. Yeah, you're going to get out of the body at some point. Yeah. However, you're still going to keep going and going and going, and if you just keep burying everything in the dungeon of your heart, and you don't want to look at it.
Let the dead bury the dead.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you, Joshua, for showing up.
You keep showing up. So now, guys, we're going to get some questions from you. We've got a microphone down there. So in the next, hello, darling. In the next 5 minutes or so, we'll get some questions. Pull up a stool. Come and sit here. Yeah. Or if you want to sit, okay. Yeah, we can bring up here. It's okay. So good. Take a break. Need some more water. You got some? Great. Yeah, so, by the way, I'm loving this.
Me too. I'm loving this. It's so much fun.
So we've
having a party.
We've only just met, by the way. This is the first time we've actually spoken. I'm not joking. Well, actually, technically, the first time we spoke was about half an hour before this.
Actually,
right?
The first time we spoke, we didn't speak. Yeah, remember? Because I called you. Yeah, I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me. I said, okay, I guess we're not supposed to. I guess everything's fine. We're good. And so I took it to my tech people, and it was working fine.
It's working fine.
So I'm going, okay, there's a reason for this.
Wow. Love it. Mamma mia. So quite often we SpeakuP Monday. Not all the time, but quite often, what tends to happen, right, is that we go back to this theta brainwave state 0 to 7 and the things that we take on from our mum and dad or caregivers, right? And then we spend the rest of our lives either living unconsciously from that place or trying to not go where that place is taking us, which means we work out back at the same place. But for you, with the way that you grew up, your parents, your life at home, can you share what it was like for you growing up? 0 to 7, and where you grew up during that time.
0 to 7. Okay, yeah, sure. Let's see. Yeah, I was okay. I came into my body in Indiana, and I had a sister and a mom and a dad. And yeah. Okay, so what? Okay, what now?
Yeah. I know, because see, it's good, isn't it? Because you usually, not as usually, but you start kind of here and you end up here. We've kind of gone all the way over here, and then we're coming back down here. It's like, what the heck?
Okay. So I grew up in a farm town of 5,000 people, and my family was your normal, dysfunctional American family. And well, I don't know how normal. What's normal? There's no normal. But I mean, there was a lot of abuse. However, my community was phenomenal. I could be whoever I wanted to be, and I was loved for whoever I wanted to be in that community. So that was really the foundation that gave me a really, really good foundation. So like when I would have to go back home, and deal with all this stuff, because I mean, it's like my mom had a narcissistic personality disorder. They were alcoholic. My dad molested me. Like it's like I've been 100 people in one body in one lifetime, right? And so I've had to do, for many years there was, just an underlying depression, and eating disorder, and all that stuff, all the stuff that comes with it, and so I just kept at it until it was gone. I don't know what is that. Did you? I don't. Does that?
Yeah. So remember, this is no answers to. There's no right answer. It's just whatever comes up for you.
Oh, okay.
Right? So that's what came up for you. So that's great. And so, was there anything that stands out that the community you mentioned loved you for who you were? Right. So I can kind of see this actress, this person that clearly your movement, your energy is like throbbing through your body. The arms are going everywhere, the hands, the head. It's like talking to myself. I'm being remarkably calm, by the way. But anyway, otherwise, over here will be like two guys going, what are you doing? And people watching will be like, what the hell is that? So I'm kind of trying to be like the guy who's asking the questions and not flying too far off the hook. See, so I'm just trying to be calm here, guys.
You don't have to try to be
I just want you guys to recognize that, all right? So
congratulations.
Thank you very much. So I see that was a huge influence upon your life and the beautiful person that you've become, right? So you mentioned as well that at home there were these abuse things going on that came with the territory, but yet somehow you managed to find yourself where you are now. So apart from your community, was there any kind of guide that you found? You mentioned the age of 3, you had that experience that you saw everything, you saw who you really were. And so was there anything else along the journey to becoming who you are now that stands out for you back in those days of being a kid?
Well, I think, human beings, we all help each other. So especially when you're a little kid, I mean, in the community, my teachers saw me and they supported me, and so, like the English teacher said, "Oh, you're a writer," and so then they gave me special assignments. So there were those teachers, and then there were the teachers because I did show up and say, you're a real asshole in my energy. When you're like 10, you don't know those words, but I mean, I would be confrontive and to a teacher and say, I'd like you to be more transparent. I think you're a little bit too arrogant. I mean, I wouldn't say that, but that's how my energy was doing. And then they would just they'd put me in the corner, they'd abuse me, they'd do all that stuff, But at the same time, I had all my life, and it's been whoever shows up in my life is who is supposed to be in there in the moment. It's like, I can't tell you. I mean, it's been everybody from like homeless person to like, I mean, I've been in some very high profile situations, very high profile people. You know, it doesn't matter. Whoever's there, if you're in the moment and you're open, I think that's the key thing. You know, an animal will guide me, whatever, But I think in terms of the childhood thing, it was the community and the teachers. And like, I would go, I was thinking, I mean, I was in high school and I was reading Alice in Wonderland and go, oh, I want to do this as a play and I want to be Alice. And so I went and I proposed it and they said yes. I still had to audition, but I was Alice, But I mean, things like that were like, they were okay, So it's like, that was definitely a very wonderful, supportive foundation that gave me, But tennis was really I think the most because I was invited to go pro at 15, and then I thought, well, I don't want to be a machine. And also at that time, like in the early 70s, I guess, women, Serena Williams wasn't around, so women had to wear like white dresses with ruffled panties. And I didn't have the imagination to think, oh, I could create something else. It was just like, oh my God, I can't wear that until I'm 20. That's ridiculous, So anyway, but I mean, what I'm saying is, it was like that energy. That was what really gave me the strength, the inner strength, and the awareness. Like, oh, this is who I am. You know what I mean?
I came from sport as well, and with dissociated selves, and I found myself there, and it was a thing I could rely on, and eventually it taught me how to be.
Yeah, exactly. Our arts, everything. Those are the things where we can really shine.
Yeah, get it. And so one other thing dropped in, and then we go to these guys. So it was right there. Maybe it will come back. It wasn't that. Maybe it was the door slamming. Energy flowing in the room. Energy flow.
Slam it now.
So it was looking like he's slightly deranged, that guy. Not slightly, a lot more. So
rearrange the derangement.
I love that.
Just rearrange.
I've been doing it for a while, and so this is what I love. So what I caught earlier on was you spent quite a bit of time, with learning from other ancient cultures, right? Which is something which I love, and I'm sure most people here will love it as well. So whatever comes in your mind first. So is there, or which ancient culture comes into your mind when I say learning about embracing your shadow?
Well, all of them have it in it. So I don't know. I think like the Tibetan Buddhist tradition showed me how to, that my mind is an ally and how to use it, how it is designed to be in service to the heart, like a knight. These are my words because
but they're beautiful words.
I mean, that's what I learned from it, is what I'm saying. Because and what I mean by that is because we've been trained to let the mind go. It's very serious. This is a very serious world we've created, and we are actually all here to play. We're here to play and have a good time. I mean, no matter what we're doing. Anyway, so and so what my experience is to be able to, when the mind is in service to the heart, then it's a knight. And the reason why I like the knight is because there's this warrior aspect, but they were also trained to be in service, like really to the feminine. Like I think of like Arthur and the Holy Grail and things like that, And so in the Tibetan tradition, they call it skillful means. So right now, all of us really need to take up the sword of discernment. And so when the mind is in that surrender to the heart and knowing that that's its place, then when the feelings come up and the intuition and it's like, oh, what do I do now? I want to do this. then it can go, that energy isn't correct for you. It's just simple. It's not personal. That energy isn't correct, then it's very clear, what comes, anyway. Yeah, so it's an ally. Then the mind becomes an ally, and it's not this, these screaming meanies,
No, I got it. I love that. That's not what sticks with me. The mind is service of the heart. Beautiful, beautiful. And there was one last question. So the work that you're doing, if we call it work, which is the immortal trend, can you explain a little bit about what that is and where it's coming from and what you hope to do with it? Or not hope, but your intention with it.
I have no intention.
I knew she was going to say that, by the way. I knew she was going to say that, but it just popped in and wouldn't leave, and I was stuck with it. Love it.
I have the choiceless choice. Yeah. No, it's just all in development. I know it's going to happen. I know that, I've lived this long for some reason. And so it feels like, it's now is the time. It feels like it's, things will come together and, I can continue, because before it was more focused on integration and healing and stuff. And that always happens anyway, no matter what. But now there's more that's coming through, that's more to really stand in this immortal self in different ways. And I got a whole bunch of ways to do it. But it's just, as I said, when I called you, I was still in rebirthing phase. And my intuition, my God, I sent you an email with all these spelling mistakes. I'm a writer. I don't do that shit. And it's like, oh God, he thinks I'm an asshole. Why could I do that? And then you didn't. And I thought, oh, good. You're so good. Like, good, because my intuition just said do it. And and so because when I saw that email, I go, okay, I'm really not reborn yet, am I? So it was a marker. And so that's what I mean, is like in the last 2 months I've like, okay, I'm here, I'm back, show me what I'm supposed to do, and I just have all these little pieces that are coming together, and I just get shown how I'm supposed to actualize them.
And if people want to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you?
They just hold out their hand. Pretty simple. Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, telepathy, anyway.
Telepathy works. I love that. Now look, I love that. So now questions, guys. So we've got a microphone over here. So anyone's got a question, just feel free to put your hand up. And the microphone will come around to you. Just keep in mind though that the microphone doesn't work like this, it works like this. So it's a directional mic. So just tilt it in the direction of your mouth and you're good.
Yeah, okay. So firstly, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful energy today. And it feels like, I don't know, like the beginning energy, like divine energy of the somewhere in top of the universe. So it's really a great moment for me. Yeah, and you partly answered to my question, but I'm gonna ask you an advice. Because when you live the life of like a spiritual guide or a healer or somebody who teach people how to live their lives in correct way, like loving and stuff, so sometimes how, as you told, like to go deep inside of your fears and to go deep of things you don't like to go in and take some gifts from there. So how it feels like to do this. So in some point you come to understanding how it works from all its sides, and probably you start to have kind of the fear, to go deep there next time, And the question is, how do you get the motivation for yourself to do it for your self-growth and for your own way? Or for example, when you're bored with all of this spiritual stuff, because I know you at some point you can be like teaching people around and all of this, how universe works, so what is the motivation?
No, I know absolutely nothing. But, thank you for that question. Thank you very, very much. as I said before, I made a vow 33 years ago to delete all the patterns of violence within me from past lives, in this life, for future lifetimes. So that vow, I guess it's a knight's vow, really, kept me going. And in all the other places, it was, I would have to come back and trust. It's pretty much that simple. Trust and faith. And faith is deeper than trust. But in the moment to moment thing, like when I was in the hospital, that's why I just hugged myself and said, I am so loved, meaning I am so loved by the universe, by God, by whatever you want to call it, that I was given this experience. And it's strange to say, like, it's like I'm saying that and I'm not saying it. It's like I feel it in my body and it's coming through me, but there's this like, but it's just like I'm not attached to any. It's just there, and so it is each time. The other thing too, in terms of fear, there's what I learned is there's two different kinds of fear. There's a fear that we're taught. Okay, be afraid to die, be afraid to go out of the house, be afraid of this person, be afraid to go enter anything new, be afraid of change, because after all, change is the only certainty, right? So there's all these fears that we're taught, and then there is a natural fear. And that natural fear is a very intuitive animal fear. Okay, and I learned that when that guy came into my apartment, because in that moment, I experienced terror. And once I experienced terror, fear became a friend. Because fear always accompanies us into the unknown. I've been an explorer all over the world all my life, and just in my backyard, I'm an explorer, right? That means that I don't know what's ahead of me. I'm going to just go in there. So that's my natural kind of beingness. Okay, that's me naturally. So what that's taught me, so when I was a little kid, I watched this cartoon called, not cartoon, it was a TV show and it was called Lost in Space. And this family literally got lost in space and they landed on a planet. And they were the only family on the planet. And there was this little boy, and a robot was in charge of this little boy. And this robot was really fat, and he walked like this. And so when the little boy and the robot went out to adventure, right? They're going out to adventure. They don't know what's in front of them. They're uncertain. Well, the robot would say, when fear arose, danger, Will Robinson, danger, Will Robinson. And that's what intuitive fear does. It just simply says, danger, danger, danger. And the intuition always has our best interest at heart. So what we're asked to do is to keep going into that intuitive fear. You can feel it in your body. It's like an animal, like you watch your dog or your cat or something, and they'll just go like that, Yeah, they're trained to fear too because people hit them and throw them away and stuff like that. But still, there's that piece. So I think, does that give you anything? What? But it's faith. It's just having trust. It's just always coming back and trusting. And when the mind wants to do other things or something from your past comes up, oh, well, that can't be true. Well, then if it's in the past, it's here for a message. It's here for you to listen to and to hear and to see what the message is that you didn't get past that was still in the past. So you can bring it in the present and release it. But it's just like, there's no way. You just have to keep going and trusting when you can't see. That's it. That's it. And also to not fear it, because that's is the only way we're going to go. This is the only way to do it. It's the only way to do. Oh, you could just like stand up and direct me. You don't have to be so quiet about it. I mean, come on. Just tell me. I could see this kind of little thing. I'm going, what's she doing?
kept you going for so many years inside of these experiences? Like, you can
my
stop.
heart.
I mean,
my heart.
your heart.
It's still beating. That's about it. What do you mean? I'm not sure.
It's, in some point you can just stop doing this because different. I don't know, in different situations. But what kept you going inside of it, like deeper inside of your experience? What was driving you to this?
My devotion to become my true face, to become who I really am. That's what it. Yeah. Does that? Okay. She's satisfied. Thank God. Yeah. And thank you. Yeah, it was just, it's devotion. Because I was thinking about devotion today. It's a very hard thing to, you understand devotion? Okay, good. Because I could never explain it because it's such a, feeling, but it is everything. It's devotion. And then the devotion turn into discipline. I mean, the more, Okay. Thanks. That was fun. Okay.
Well done. Thank you for keeping on going, because
like
the way it kind of works is that the question that you have in your mind, many people probably have as well, but they're too scared to ask. So one person asking is actually asking for everybody.
Yes.
Right. So it's really powerful what you did, and you kept going until you got the answer. Thank you. Yeah. Really cool.
I
really
appreciate that. Yeah.
Whew, now,
just sitting around the planetary campfire.
Planetary campfire. That's another one. So many takeaways. God dang. So does anyone else have any questions? Lucky. Yeah, we'll get the microphone to you. Remember, directional mic, my man.
Thank you very much. And I also appreciate being in your circle of energy and knowledge.
Thank you.
If I can ask a question. Firstly, what I want to ask is, you mentioned that clearing the past to make space in the present so that it doesn't affect the future, if I understand correctly. I've heard a lot of advice and done a lot of readings and, through many mediums about recognizing and attaching yourself to, not attaching yourself, but recognizing the past. May it be from childbirth to the present, or in a previous life, whether you be reincarnated into the present. If you haven't had that experience or haven't gone that far to go beyond that realm into the past, for example, how do you connect with it?
So you're not asking me, you're asking if a person has not had the experience of
going back to forgive or accept, to experience what had happened to them. I know you mentioned you had previous experiences at those 10-year intervals. Of course, those are milestones in a different light, right? However, surely there would be milestones in a previous life, as what I've learned.
Before I came into this body as me now.
Correct.
Yeah, sure. Yes, yeah.
Of course, understanding what happened then would also set you up for greatness now.
Yes.
Correct? How would you enter into those learnings if you haven't been, say, hypnotized or therapeutically been dealt with, or being open to those understandings, because not everybody is.
Yes, that's very, very true. I think that we just have to ask for what we want. And it's pretty much that simple, to just ask to be shown. I remember, decades ago, my friend was moving, doing all this past life regression and stuff like that. And she goes, "Oh, Tara, why don't you try?" I go, "Are you kidding? This one's enough. I don't want to go back there." And so I was one of those people, right? And then I went to a Renaissance festival, and Renaissance is like, what is it? It's the nights? I don't know. Renaissance?
Yeah.
Okay, you got that. Okay, so there's these festivals in my country, and so I went up to the wild bird performance, and it was like 200 people there, and I was standing at the back, and it was outdoors, and there was a person that came on stage with a kestrel. And so I looked at the kestrel and I heard, that bird is going to fly to you. And I just heard that. And so she quit saying what she said. She introduced the bird, and then the bird flew right to me and landed on my head. And in that time that the bird flew there, I had my first past life image. And I was in Ireland, and I was an earth goddess, and the kestrel was one of my allies. And so then I told my friend, and then she told me all about it, and then I went in and like, oh, okay, let's see what's in there. And so I discovered some things which were very, very important about the fellow that I married, which made total sense. So I'm not married to him anymore. And so, but I think it's really, right now, the field of energy is just so potent for all of us just to be open in all these different ways, and it could happen in any way, shape, or form.
Correct.
I mean, it just happens. And that's all that it takes, is just to ask and to know. And then, and usually you have to, you're talking to a friend, and if there's a little opening, you'll say, hey, did you ever think about this? Like my friend.
Yeah.
Well, no. However, she said something, and then that happened, and then I could connect to it. So there usually is, that's what's happened, because we live on a planet that requires experiential learning.
Mm-hmm.
We can read all the shit we want, and it just pretty much stays like that, unless it gets in the body. So that's, and I think that, it can be any. I've in answer to your question, I have observed and heard so many different ways where that happens. It's just like mind blowing. Why do you ask it? What's your?
It was attached to the other theory where you said you got to not attach. This happened because of that. Whereas personally, a lot of that does happen, and it's out of script. It's just all in year and year, where something happens and you it just happened because of some chain reaction, and if you do follow the sign, and you're open to learning about what's been shown, you will continue that chain reaction.
Right.
Personally, if I look the other way and I say that's crap, that chain stops for a while until you're ready to carry on that pathway. Yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But what Rob mentioned was, how do you, this happened, and man, I feel like I could have been personally, we were 3 kids as growing up together. And if I look back at now, what affects me now because of then, I can smile at it now because it's it wasn't such a bad thing. It did something greater for me now, right? Like in a major way. So to get back to it, sorry. Those instances with the car accident and the other one in your room, it seems bad, but it's let you learn a lot, right? And do you regret it?
How can I regret it? I didn't even have any choice in the matter. It just happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all strangers. But here's the thing that I figured, like after the gang member wanted to rape me, and I said no, and I saw my true face, and I was in bliss, right? I was in bliss in the emergency room, and my friend at the time was a very well-known investigative journalist who investigated a lot of stuff, and then she got blacklisted. But anyway, that's another story. And so she took me home from the hospital, and in that ride home from the hospital, I go, oh. I said, oh, I get it. She goes, what? Well, this happened 10 years to the next day of first thing, and they're all strangers. I must have really screwed up a bunch of people in previous lives for this to happen, because the day that the last thing happened, I was in the theater company, and I was an actor, but I was also the tour director. And so I kept feeling this energy like, okay, do I have a performance tonight? No. Am I supposed to go review a play? No. Is something happening? Something's happening tonight. Something's happening tonight. I would ask everybody, nothing's happening tonight. What happened was the guy broke into my apartment and did that. And so I connected that feeling with the awareness from the emergency room, and then that helped me helped me.
So you were already doing these practices of going back into a previous past life, yeah?
I don't, that's not me. I just, things happen and I go, oh, okay, we're doing this now. I mean, that's kind of like how it works. It's not like, I mean, as I said, I mean, ever since I was a little kid, I've been devoted to being like, you know, I was supposed to get confirmed in the Episcopal Church and I was 12 years old and the preacher was talking and I told him, you know, I don't hear God in anything you're saying. You know, basically I was telling him it was bullshit. So I've always had this, it's just kind of an innate thing, like, you know, that's all I know. But yeah, but there's always been something, you know, I've been devoted to I, you know, to spirit, God, whatever, since I was a little kid. You know, I don't have any words for it, but yeah. But I think it's that each person is wired differently, and we're going to get different insights and experiences from everything. Even though that this is what we are here to do on the earth, is to have these experiences, and this is how we grow into our light and into our immortal self or true face or whatever. This is how we do it here on the planet.
Correct. All right.
Thank you, Luke. Thank you. If you've got any more, please bring them. Did you have any kids?
No. When I was 16, I did a report on climate change and population, and it said that it was going to be like kind of like the way it is now, and I didn't trust humanity to do any different, so I chose not to have kids. But I was a step parent of a teenage drug addict. So he taught me a lot about love. He taught me how to love unconditionally, is what he taught me.
Yeah, because a question which popped up was that, you know, when you have kids, you know, how can you do this type of work or be in this particular place? Because there's two people, one person that sticks out for me, a woman called Dr. Shivali, that some of you may know already. And so I'll paraphrase, right? So for her, she's a relationship coach, counselor. And for her, the Western world, when it comes to kids, is about, okay, well, my kid is going to be like this. My kid is going to be better than me. He's going to do more than me. He's going to have more opportunity than me. My kid is going to be an amazing. So essentially, this kid is an extension of me. Right? And I'm going to live through my kid. Right? That's the Western approach.
Right.
So she's Indian background. So for her, the Eastern approach, or her approach, is more like, well, you know, and you used this word before, which is a beautiful word, called being a custodian of this being. And actually what it's about is, you know, what is this being here to teach me? Which, if you look at it from that point, that perspective, they're very different. I wouldn't necessarily say they're opposite, but pretty close to it. So like, that's the way which she embraces children. So it just popped up for me. Is there anything that comes in?
That's exactly the way it is. That's how I've had children as clients. And again, you know, my stepson, he taught me how to love. And I have mentors in every generation. You know, my 7-year-old friend is a mentor of mine. I mean, everybody here is, you know, so, and the way, first, when we begin to reparent ourselves, then we become a human being with a little human. And so we don't identify ourselves through him, because what you're talking about is, oh, you're my identity. You are my identity. And no, that's your own little identity. You know, I mean, this is why we're in this place right now, is because of all this codependence and, you know, you're me, and no, I'm not you, you know, I'm me. And, you know, so it is for parenting to be present is it. That's really it. And to guide and to be, you know, yeah. And the thing is, I know, like, when I was teaching in a Montessori school, anyway, I was teaching in a Montessori school, and I went in early with the kids, well, like daycare or something before the school started, and I opened it up, and that's when I would do my meditation practice, and I always had a little person on my lap. you know, so you can do your own things, and it's really, yeah, because I can remember it was like sometime in the 90s, I was at some, I don't know, international conference or something, and I saw these parents in the thing. I said, oh dear, we have to, like, you know, shift parenting here, because it's all like what you said, and it's like we're going to have a whole generation of kids that aren't real. They're not themselves. You know, and it's just, I think, you know, everybody has in the West is like, oh, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? Just to love. That's it. There's nothing big you're going to do. It's these little teeny things. It's the small things. It's the small things. It's the dragonfly that lands on your nose when you're swimming in the river. You know, it's that kind of thing. It's the very small things. And so if you place yourself, the thing you want to do is to reclaim your own curiosity as a parent, and then you're there right there with the kid. You know, you're an adult and you see things, okay, because you have that experience, but that curiosity is where the kid's going to connect with you. I'm going to say, okay, this is it. This is where I want to be, you know, is with this. So it's that curiosity is a really strong ally. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. So we've got one more question over here. So thanks, Olechi. And then after that, we'll probably do something. Let's hear.
Yes, I wanted to ask, when someone comes to you, what do they usually hope to get from a session with you, or multiple sessions, however it is that you're working?
It depends upon the person, what they want. It's very, very different for each person.
The trauma clients, I mean, people that have trauma and come to you, what do they get from working with you? What is it that they come for?
Yeah, the first thing I do, like for instance, like this was like 30 years ago, but it's still the same thing. It's like when I said that the very first client was survivors of satanic ritual abuse. What I did was I got her into her own power, the very first thing. I got her into her belly, into her breath, said, this is you, this is you, this is you here. And I just kept doing that until she got stronger. And then each time that we're coming from this source power, then we can take in these fractured parts of ourselves that are very, very painful and very, very hard to hold on to and to be, because we're centered in love in ourselves. And then if you have another person there who's in love who's in love presence with you, then you got a good team going. You got a communion. You got a communion with spirit, with the earth, with the dungeon, the darkness underneath. Everybody's having a party at the same time. But that's the thing. And she came to me rather than a psychologist or whatever, because she was so brilliant and she'd been so manipulated and abused and everything. She didn't trust anybody. And I think no matter who you go to, whatever the person is, trust. If you feel it, that's it. That's you. Maybe two other people go, oh, I don't like that person, but you trust, you feel, you go. You know, and that's kind of what it, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Because when you said you worked with trauma victims or trauma survivors for a long time, so that's why I wonder if there is maybe a pattern that you see in how to go about the healing process, or how to go about the way that you advise them.
Each person is unique. So I deal specifically with the uniqueness of that person. So that's all I can say. It's I sit in presence and I'm with them.
Yes. Okay. So maybe more clear, because you said that you don't want people to go in it as a victim, but to go in it with the sword. That was what you said. So you said what you don't want them to do, but how would you
I don't
describe...
want people to do or do anything.
Mm-hmm.
If a person has survived that much, they're in a lot of pain. They want to be safe. And that's the most important thing, to be safe and to feel safe. And to own, like, yes, You were victimized. But the you that is the immortal you never, ever, ever got harmed. When I saw my true face, you know what I did after I came home from the emergency room? I drew it. And in the middle of the paper was this bright sun. And all around it was blood. And that blood never got into the sun. It's eternal. It can never, ever, ever be harmed. And all this stuff you hear, oh, I don't know what you hear. I mean, there's things like, oh, I'm gone. No, you're not gone. You're still there. It's just that, it feels like that. And people keep reinforcing that. And also, I'd just like to say something, if I can. Language creates consciousness, and consciousness creates our reality, right? This is why right now on the planet we've got a war the war for the mind, and it's on information. It's on words, okay? So a long, long time ago, the word was used, and it still is in every context, the word trigger, okay? Now, just that word trigger, right now my whole body just is seizing. It's shutting down. We are organisms. We are flowing organisms. We're soil. We're like the soil. We have cells. We live and die. We breathe. It's like, wow, we're organisms. So I changed that word to catalyst. Because when you look at something under a microscope in the science, they go, oh, this little cell came in and catalyzed all this other stuff in these other cells. And that's what things do. They catalyze things inside of us. They catalyze that energy inside of us that has been frozen. And it opens up and it starts to melt. And that's when we come in and we say, I love you so much. I've missed you. I've missed you. I want to be with you. But if you keep using that word trigger, you are going to remain not self. I'm telling you. And it's everywhere. So if you can do that, that's like huge. It's huge on an energy shift level, because you suddenly go, oh, I'm a being. I'm really just a piece of bread, and I'm just all these cells here. I'm getting catalyzed. In my country, when we were little kids, we had the carnivals, and we had these bumper cars. I can't believe I was in them. They're so weird. And so you get in this little car, and you just go you're like this, and you just bump up against people, and you can only really do it when you're a little kid, because that's what little kids do, right? But when I got that word catalyst, I go, well, this is what it is. We're just bumping. Where I'm moving away from the, oh, well. Anyway, well, you're here, they're there. I mean, I love you, but they're here. And so it's the bumping up against. So you might read something, or a person could say something, or the bird could sing in your ear, and you could get catalyzed. Something is going to have, the kestrel landed on my head, my past life got catalyzed. Okay, and then that puts it into an organic place, because we are organisms. We're not machines. A trigger is on a gun. And the only reason guns exist is to kill another being. So language creates consciousness, and consciousness creates our reality.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That was exactly why I asked how you would explain your process, because when someone wants to work with you, I'm sure they want to have a bit of explanation how it's going to go.
No, not really. They just want to know if they trust me, and if I can serve them. I don't explain much.
Okay.
It's being present and feeling, and I don't know, it'll happen if it's supposed to happen. I mean, I don't know.
Thank you. Ooh. I just want to give you a big hug. Bring it in.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so happy. Thank you so much. Oh my God. Wow. Terima kasih banyak.
You're welcome.
Muchas gracias.
Ooh, so guys,
Merci beaucoup.
this is Speak Up Monday. We've gone pretty long, but I love it because we go as long as we go, and that's as long as we went. So just to keep in mind, every Monday, 7 o'clock here at Tropical Nomad. Thanks again to the team, Ichi and Bella. Thank you so much, guys, and the rest of the team. Round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, round of applause to yourselves, to the audience. Round of applause to yourselves. And a huge round of applause to you, sister.
Thank you. I couldn't do it without you.
And remember, if you ever want to be a guest, feel free to reach out to us. Speak Up Monday. We're here. You know how to get me. Thank you so much, everybody. And we're going to be behind and answer some more questions more than likely. But bye-bye to everybody online. Bye-bye to you, and whoever else is here.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. Love you guys. Thank you so much. See you next week. Thank you. Out of the side of my corner, and then I finally go, oh, she must need to move. I'm like, you're right here, man.